Western California in 2022. John and his father ran a large horse farm. They've been making money by breaking horses for generations. Living here has become somewhat of a routine. After explaining his work to his father, John was walking home with his suitcase. Then there was a noise in the sky. Then there was a great fall of metal. The father was hit and fell off his horse. By the time John got him to the hospital, it was too late. No one would have guessed that it was a coin that killed his father. The police gave an explanation for the incident. It was rubbish from a passing plane that killed him. After his death, John and Anna inherited the stable. They mainly supplied Hollywood with horses for filming, but there was an accident during an audition. A frightened horse killed the job with a kick. On the way back, the siblings had a problem. Their father had been working with Hollywood for years. They never thought they'd lose the job. In order to maintain the basic livelihood of the stable, they decided to sell a few horses to tide them over. Soon after, they went to a nearby fairground. This is where the horses were to be sold. There were a lot of people here. It's very busy. When you look up, you can see the giant hydrogen figures. It's a fun atmosphere that gives you a sense of childlike wonder. John urges Anna to keep up. Remind him that he's here to talk business, not play. This yellow-skinned young man's name is Jet. He was the owner of the amusement park. He told him how much he wanted to pay. I cannot believe that the other party quickly agreed. At this time, John do not know. In fact, the man in front of him has a secret that no one knows. That night, brother and sister returned home to the stable. They could see that their father's death had affected them. After all, the living go on. Inside the room, Anna pointed to a denim jacket. She remembered when she was a child, she was supposed to tame that horse herself, but her father gave him to her brother. She remembers her brother's gesture of "I'll protect you," but those good times will never come back. John didn't want Anna to blame her father because it was a family rule. While they were talking, one of the horses ran out of the stable. John went outside to check. He saw the horse running like a madman into the distance. He followed the trail, but the horse was nowhere to be found. Then there was a noise in the sky. Then something like a flying saucer appeared. When John returned, he told Anna about it. Anna thought it was a business opportunity. If the object in the sky is a real flying saucer, if the object in the sky was a real flying saucer, then by filming it in high definition, she could make a fortune. The next day, John and Anna came to town to buy HD equipment and brought Will, the installer of the kit, to their home. Under the guidance of a professional, a large number of cameras were quickly installed in the horse farm, which left Will with one question: why point the camera at the sky? Anna came up with a great idea. She stole a fake horse wrapped in ribbons from the fairgrounds. As Will was leaving, he tried to find out what the siblings were up to, but Anna drove him away. Later that night, a horse escaped again. John found it and was about to pull it away. There was a familiar sound in the sky. Then the horse ran away, left behind. John then saw a terrifying sight. The stolen dummy horse was being sucked away by a huge object. Back to the room to check the security cameras, but the crucial footage was always blocked by a power cut. Another day, Anna contacted a famous cameraman to use his hand-cranked equipment. By this time, the two siblings had already come to a conclusion. The flying saucer had the ability to stop all power immediately, so something else had to be done. At this very moment, Will from yesterday arrived, so he went back and secretly remote monitoring and found something different. Using the accelerated mode of viewing, there's a cloud over the stables. It never moved. The guys guessed that the flying saucer must be hiding in that cloud, but the results didn't mean anything. To prove a flying saucer, we need clear evidence, and so it was. Will, the installer, became the siblings' new helper. Meanwhile, Jack at the fairgrounds was reminiscing about his childhood. In 1986, in the United States, there was a nationwide animal attack. A domesticated chimpanzee suddenly went berserk during a taping. The young boy who escaped hid under a table and witnessed the whole thing. Eventually, the chimp found the boy, but instead of hurting him, he gave him a friendly feast. Decades have passed. The boy who survived is now Jack. Today is the day that the fairgrounds will perform the summoning of the flying saucer. For this day, he has been planning for a long time. It turns out that Jack has known about the existence of flying saucers for a long time, and he's been using the horses that John sold him. He believed that he had a kind of magic in him. He thought that if he could tame a chimpanzee that went berserk in 1986, he could tame a newly discovered flying saucer. The show hadn't even started yet. A hiss suddenly appeared in the distant sky, and then a huge object slowly arrives, wrapped in clouds. The moment the drinks machine stopped spinning, everyone looked up at the spectacle of a lifetime. As Jack looked on in horror, he was sucked into the saucer with everyone else. There were cries of despair. People were paying the price for their ignorance. On the other side of the stable, the equipment was being set up. A flyer appeared in front of us. It says calling aliens at the fairgrounds. He had a feeling that something was wrong. John rushed off to check it out. And then John arrived at the playground, which was no longer occupied. The place was dead. The chaos made it obvious that something big had happened. He followed the path to Jack's show ring. Inside the square, the horses were still standing in their lockers. Just as John was about to step forward to take them away, the flying saucer suddenly reappeared in the sky and flew at breakneck speed. John woke up from his coma and realized that it was nighttime. He loaded his horse into the car and called Anna. John said that the so-called flying saucer was not an alien ship, but an alien monster, judging from the experience of horse training and the situation at the scene. This monster ate everyone in the amusement park. At that moment, suddenly, the power went out in the house. He thought it was the monster his brother was talking about. Well, who was about to leave, turned back. He said there was something outside the house that was making miserable noises. Then there was a strange cry. It sounded like it was coming from right above the roof. Maybe it's the people that were swallowed, are being digested and decomposed. That's why they were screaming. After a few minutes, the screaming stopped, and then there was a stream of blood coming from the window. This must be the alien monster excreting food waste. He poured the undigested blood all over the house. The horror of the commotion made Will shiver. Will shivered. Anna was no better. John, who had arrived, saw the scene. He opened his window and looked up, and in the next instant, he drew back, and it was this glance that revealed his position. His position was revealed. It's the fake horse and the ribbons that were wrapped around it. It seems they couldn't be digested by the monster. That's why they were returned in this way. The lights of the house are gradually coming on. That means the monster may have left. It's getting light now, but that doesn't mean you come let your guard down. John went to Will's car. He opened the door and waved to the two people inside. Anna and Will ran over to him. Just then, the monster reappeared from the clouds. John's experience with horses kept his head down. In the animal kingdom, looking directly into the eyes is considered a provocation. I can't believe it worked on the monster. He didn't stop. He just flew away. A few moments later, John started his car and left the stable. A few people fled to the city to celebrate. They had survived. They didn't want to talk about their dreams of getting rich anymore. But John was a little upset. This monster not only killed his father, he's killed more innocent people than he knows what to do with. And now he's angry at the stable because of the fake horses. Not only did he pour blood into the house for a demonstration, he smashed the fake horse through a car window as a provocation. I'm not saying we have to fight the monster out in the open, but at least we can't let him destroy our ancestors. On the fourth day, a few people returned to the stable again, along with the photographer they contacted yesterday. That's good. The team has grown to 4. They sat down to discuss the situation. First, they named the alien monster Denim Jacket. Then they plotted how to use the enemy's characteristics to capture the footage in high definition and without danger. Here's the plan. The cameraman would take pictures with a handheld camera. Will would assist the cameraman and set up 50 power-enabled inflatables. Anna will sew some ribbons because from the fake horse, we can assume that the monster doesn't like it. When the monster arrives, John will be out there drawing fire and is gonna be in the house, marshalling the scene. The rest of us, the photographer and Will, just focus on taking pictures. Day 5, a battle is brewing in the quiet stable. John wrapped the horse's eyes in cloth and rode him into battle.
We gonna get you today, motherfucker.
There are inflatable figures every 50 meters. When the monster suddenly appears, the doll's power disappears. That's when everyone knew it was coming. John was running around the race course, reporting the real-time situation on his walkie-talkie. Then a motorbike rider came by. Anna came out to warn him off, but he said he'd spotted a stationary cloud. Turns out he's a gossip reporter. He was worried that there was no good news to report, and against Anna's advice, the reporter started his motorbike and drove towards the cloud. The figures around him suddenly collapsed. Then the reporter's equipment spilled out onto the ground. We don't know if he's dead or alive. John went to check it out, not caring about the danger. Anna was watching on the court feed with great concern. She quickly came to the seriously injured reporter. At this point, the mannequins are standing up again. John immediately stepped down to save the mannequin. Suddenly, the mannequin fell down again. In the reflection of his helmet, there was also a monster approaching very fast. John had no choice but to leave the reporter behind. A cameraman saw the scene. The cameraman saw it and exclaimed at the spectacle. On the other side, the horses were running back desperately. John pulled back and stopped to check. It turns out that the monster had been following him. The trick of keeping your head down. Will it work this time? There's a strong sense of pressure behind us. An upward spiraling whirlwind is coming. A reporter's screams are heard in the darkness of the cave. The flying sand is worrying Will in the distance. Everyone's worried about John. John didn't want to die. He put his hat on his head and rode off at a gallop. The figures fell on either side of him, and the whole land was darkened by the giant thing. It was too fast to run away. Just as the monster was about to suck John right out of him, the ribbons that Anna had sewn came in handy. As expected, was stuck in the monster's throat for a long time, so he was very resistant to it, and once again, John was able to get away with speculation. Anna exclaimed that her brother was a genius. The cameraman and Will have captured some absolutely stunning moments. The scriptwriter's job was done. Everyone thought it was the perfect ending, but the photographer's vision was too lofty. He wanted to get up close and personal with the monster. Against the advice of the crowd, the last one went up high to check it out. Soon the monster gave him a face with its huge mouth. With fear and joy, the photographer was at the end of his life. Will, not far away, panicked. He looked up at the creature above him, terrified. Not knowing what to do, he saw that he was next in line. A plastic sheet flew over him and wrapped itself around his body, and that's how he survived. Sensing the gaze from afar, the monster flew towards him. Anna hid in the house, but the monster destroyed the house. Anna tried to fight her way out, but the next moment, she had a flying experience. And then the monster remembered that Will hadn't made it. It turned around and tried to go back in. The wire wrapped around his body and caught him on the ground. The strong pull of the fence prevented Will from being sucked away. He was lucky to survive again. The scared Anna didn't look for cover. She chose to keep her head down and won. John saw Anna and told him to find the motorbike. That's when Anna realized the creature was changing forms. It was probably angry because it hadn't eaten anyone. It seemed to be showing its true colors and threatening the humans. John realized that Anna was in danger. It turned his attention to the horses nearby. Anna didn't dare turn back. She could only run forward. She reached the motorbike in the nick of time, but when he stepped on the bike and started it, the accident happened. The mannequin in front of him suddenly collapsed. The motorbike became a useless piece of scrap metal. At this point, John started to face the monster on his horse and began to provoke him. Anna was shocked by her brother's behavior, but he quickly looked down again as the monster gave him a terrifying look. One look at the giant monster, and then at Anna, who was still struggling. John had the audacity to whistle. He tried to buy Anna time to escape, to lure the monster to follow him backwards. With mixed feelings, Anna seems to have made a decision. She looked up and shouted to her brother and told him to run, and then her words start the creature drifting towards her brother. John looked at Anna and made a gesture that he had made when he was a child. "I'll protect you." Anna watched with tears in her eyes. She replied to her brother with the same gesture. At this point, the monster changed. It was like a flower in full bloom, spraying out its stamens. As the monster slowly approached John, Anna's figure returned to normal. Taking a look in the direction of her brother, she started her motorbike and started to run upstream towards the horse farm. As if sensing the escape of its prey, the monster dropped John and went after him again. Anna watched as the monster, like a pancake, in a flash, it was behind the motorbike, but the speed at which it was supposed to catch up seems to be toying with him, not catching up with her. Anna drove the motorbike all the way to the amusement park. Then she broke through the barriers and entered the play area. At this point, he came up with a great idea and finally, with a perfect sideways slide, stopped the motorbike, and then she unhooked a couple of cables and released the giant hydrogen figure and released it into the sky. Judging by the monster, he would have been angry at the look on the doll's face. Picking up the coins scattered on the ground, Anna was ready to record the monster with a handheld camera. The huge creature floats upwards like a squid. It looks like it's chasing the doll. As the figure reaches the clouds, it slows down. The monster is ready to eat him. The monster finally opens its huge mouth. That's when it finally opens its huge mouth. Anna activated the hand-cranked camera at the critical moment. The monster that sucked in the doll quickly changed its form. It instantly reverted back to its original flying saucer mode. A few minutes later, the monster's body expanded violently, and then strong pressure caused the hydrogen doll to explode. The monster was killed by the huge explosion. Anna was happy to see this. The fear in her heart and the grievances she had grown up with were perfectly released at this moment. The photo taken at the wellhead shows a graphic. The brother was riding a horse, also appeared in the midst of the press.